Welcome to this week's episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast, where experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based in Kingston upon Thames are invited on to share their story with us. I'm your host, Amir Rochalina.
This week's episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast is brought to you by Holland Harnham Wills, a financial planning and wealth management firm based in Kingston upon Thames. Holland Harnham Wills specialises in retirement planning for senior professionals and successful business owners. Visit hhw-uk.com to start feeling more relaxed and confident about your financial future.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast. I'm joined today by Kat Damcova. Kat is the founder and managing director of IQ in IT, an award-winning company providing secure, outsourced IT services. What's unique about Kat is how her experience of being a young woman in IT has led her to become a mentor with Kingston University and local secondary schools, encouraging young girls to explore technology as a career path. And be sure to listen to the end, where Kat shares with us how discovering her grandfather's electrical engineering toolkit started her on a path to being fascinated by building things. So whether you're interested in knowing more about the world of information technology, or would like to know more about what it takes to run a successful independent business, then I hope you enjoy this episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast. Welcome, Kat Damcova, to the Inside Kingston Podcast. Kat, I'm really excited about this conversation because, well, if nothing else, this past year in lockdown has made all of us aware of just how important it is for small businesses to have a really good IT infrastructure in place in order to be able to operate efficiently. And I think our listeners can learn a lot from your expertise in this area. But to kick off this conversation, I'd like to go back in time, if that's okay. So, Kat, where did you grow up?
Well, I have grown up in Czech Republic, and as a child, I've been surrounded by invention of my grandfather, who I unfortunately haven't met, but he has left behind a lot of invention he's created, like a spinning and lighting Christmas tree, which is actually a thing of today, but my granddad has created it in the 80s, and it was amazing to have that at home. And I've been allowed to sort of play with all the electric items which were left behind, and I've been creating little lamps, extensions, and other bits and pieces. So that was really great for me to learn, and that was the sort of thing I've been interested with. And also, my parents had a big garden, and we had sort of chickens and goats and other things. And I've never been told no if I brought home an animal or an egg of some kind. And and I've been allowed to sort of have like a little zoo in the garden and look after the animals and have a puppy. And I have puppies from my sort of grown-up puppy, and it was amazing. And I think that has sort of shaped my personality and who I am today by being allowed to do all of these things and not be told, no, you can't have this or that.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. And obviously, Kat, full disclosure for our listeners, we know each other through the Chambers of Commerce. So we've had a chance to talk about both our backgrounds in the past through different networking meetings. But for me, it's fascinating that sort of a chance discovery of your grandfather's electrical engineering toolkit is what slowly led you down a path of enjoying building things and seeing how things work. Is it fair to say that perhaps is what helped lead you towards a career in technology?
Well, yes, it is. Because the way the sort of school system works in Czech Republic is when you get to sort of 14, 15, you are deciding which sort of specialist high school you're going to go to and where you're going to take your career. And I sort of wanted to be an electrician, but then there was this new thing called computers, and it had electronics in it. So it still has power going through it, but it sounded more challenging. And I was lucky to get accepted to a high school called Net Office, which was specializing in computer. And I've learned so much about sort of computers, networks, programming, all sorts of different programs. And that sort of kicked off my career in IT.
That's fantastic. And Kat, did you go to university? And if so, what did you study?
So unfortunately, I've not actually been accepted to university after I finished my high school. So I've taken a year off and I've traveled the world. I've been in America and then I came over to UK. And that sort of led into me falling in love and eventually moving into UK after I have managed to secure actually 2 places at university. One of them was a standard sort of you go there every day. The other one was sort of a combined learning, which allowed me to study from wherever I was. And eventually I've moved over to UK and could only keep up going into or keeping the sort of combined learning university. So I've finished my bachelor's degree while living and working in UK. And when I started IQ and IT in 2009, I've also been studying for my master's degree, which I finished in 2015. So it's been very challenging to try and balance everything, but it definitely gave me a lot of overview in technology and all aspects of it.
Yeah, and it's fantastic to hear that. For our younger listeners, I know that we have a pretty big cohort of young listeners who like to listen to people's backstories here in the podcast. There's just so many ways to go about finding the thing that you actually want to study, perhaps at university, perhaps as a professional qualification, as you alluded to, perhaps as a mix of both. So it's great to hear that you eventually found your path into the education you obviously loved to pursue because you did it whilst working, which is a challenge. I did the same. So I know that is hard and it takes some grit. So well done on that. Kat, could you tell us a little bit about your career journey before setting up your business?
So my first job I got in the UK, apart from my initial being an au pair, which didn't quite work out. And I've only done that for a few months. I have then been lucky to have a support of my partner who sort of insisted that I keep looking for a job in IT rather than taking any other jobs. So I have been studying towards Microsoft certifications, and after probably about 6 months, I have secured a position as an IT manager in Wimbledon.
Fantastic. So yeah, it's been IT through and through.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fantastic. Very cool. And to bring this conversation to the present, could you tell us a little bit about your business today?
So my business was started in the way how my previous job has developed, and I have moved from sort of managing one school in Wimbledon to managing multiple schools, and to also getting involved in a sale side of things and managing projects. So that was really what I enjoyed, but I didn't agree completely with how the company was run, and that it wasn't very ethical in certain aspects. And I thought that sometimes it wasn't right the way certain things were sold and how it went about. So I thought I could do it better. Little did I know.
That's the way a lot of businesses start, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've started my business, and I was sort of the first project I've been working on was for Greater London Authority, where I met my business partner, Luke, who then joined me in my business later on. But it was sort of a bit difficult to try and understand how clients come around and how you do the actual full sale process from finding the client. So I have been able to do the part where you already have a client and you sell them more things and give them more services. But I didn't quite understand why people went turning up at the door.
Absolutely. And isn't that such a common occurrence, especially when we are coming out of, say, a corporate world where there is a marketing machine, there's a prospecting machine to bring clients to the door, as you said, to then starting your own small business and going, why aren't people showing up? And I'm guessing that between you and Luke, you guys have figured that out, right? Because today, IQ and IT has a pretty solid presence in the area as a provider of IT services.
Yeah. So having someone who is also strong on the IT side, so Luke is our technical director. He also had education in business, where I didn't have that side. All I have at high school was economics, which isn't the same. So I could understand how the money go around and, the macro and micro and all of that. But, how does it work in a business? I didn't have a clue. So Luke was more clued up on that side. And he's actually really, really good on the business side as well, although he prefers not to get involved in it.
Fantastic.
So
That's cool.
that was really, really good. We've also been helped with by a business advisor. So that was sort of eye-opening for me, not so much for Luke, but it was helpful to get someone else to sort of help you along. And obviously, our office was based in Kingston's house, where the Kingston Chamber was also based. I have sort of struck a conversation with Jerry Irving, who used to be the CEO of the Chamber, and that sort of led into us becoming the member, and that really helped getting connected with local businesses and sort of striking the conversations and getting more business in.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to pull that thread further with you later in the conversation, Kat. But just before I do so, I think, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, and look, I'll state my bias on the show. We are, as a firm, clients of IQ and IT. As a financial planning and wealth management firm, I mean, we do require secure IT services, and you guys are great at providing that for us, that secure infrastructure for us. So obviously, thank you for that, Kat. But I think more than ever, these last 12 months during this COVID pandemic has shown small business owners that you need to have a good IT infrastructure in place to be able to operate efficiently, let alone securely. And in a world going forward, Kat, where businesses are probably going to start offering hybrid working, flexible packages to their staff where they can work partly from home, partly from the office. I just wanted to get a feel from you, when you are in your professional community, when you're doing research and reading the things that come out in your professional publications, how do you see that requirement for a good IT infrastructure to be in place? And what perhaps should our small business owner listeners be thinking about when they think about their IT infrastructure at the moment?
So I think the important thing is to sort of realize that if you're running a business, you are probably either the expert or you are trying to head off a team of experts in that field. And most of the time, the IT won't be the field you are an expert in. So it's really important to realize that IT is really the core of any business nowadays, no matter if it's a farmer or a financial business or any other sort of business. There might be a requirement for higher security for financial businesses than there is for a farmer. But actually, no matter what business it is, the IT is still a core. And if it doesn't work, it will have a very detrimental effect on the business. So it's really important, and obviously having the security in place so you don't end up with your clients' sensitive information all over the internet, or your data being encrypted and you not being able to access it. That all is in a lot of the cases very preventable, and it's a bit like with the real virus at the moment. If each of us are doing our bit to try and be more secure, there will be less money going to the sort of dark side, who then will have less resources to be coming up with new ideas of how to infiltrate into our businesses or our personal lives.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Kat. And hats off to you guys also for the blogs that you regularly put out, especially during seasonal periods, just to highlight to the community and obviously to your clients, to your readers, that there are some measures that everyone can take to be able to prevent fraud, prevent being scammed by these hackers on the internet and everything else. So appreciate that. And Kat, I'd just like to segue to a slightly different topic, if I may. I just wanted to get a feel from you as to how it has been like, or maybe how it was like more in the beginning, to be a young woman in technology.
So that is sometimes difficult, and quite a lot in my career. It's sometimes weeks, sometimes months to try and get in a mostly male surrounding to sort of come across and be seen as someone who does have the understanding and the knowledge and knows what she's doing. And I feel that this is not the only sort of industry this happens in. I think it's mainly across a lot of sort of male-dominated areas where females like myself might find it difficult and sort of struggle to be heard and be taken seriously. But it's sometimes not just between sort of the IT crowds. It's sort of in the business world as well, and I do come across it even sort of in the last few weeks, where people tend to sort of go towards the male parts rather than thinking that a female might know about technology and feel that they can come to me to speak to me about it. So I'm hoping that there will be more women in technology and the sort of STEM area to try and make it more equal, because then that will all change the scale, and people will start not the conversation, oh, maybe she doesn't know, but feel confident that, no matter what the gender is, it's what the person knows, rather than sort of being biased towards speaking to someone.
Yeah, and I love the way you said, I hope, and I think that's wrong. I don't think you hope, because I know that you take an active role in the local community through mentoring young girls at local secondary schools and also at Kingston University to really encourage them to pursue a career in technology. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel strongly to try and support girls going especially into technology. And I find it really hard because although the new curriculum at schools is really, really great, and is finally teaching children the right things we need them to know when they come out of school, I feel that should really be taught to every single child, not just the selected few who the teachers think that they have a better chance of achieving a better grade. Because we don't want necessarily the people who achieve the best grades. We want the people who are really, really passionate. And I think there is a very, very small percentage of girls who are taking IT as their GCSE or A levels. And I think we need some more encouragement and more sort of cooperation with the school system, especially to try and have that more equal in the school and support the girls who show even a small signs that they might be interested, rather than discouraging them from taking the subject.
Absolutely. And hopefully through the platform that we're trying to create here in this podcast, we're giving young girls, young men, it doesn't really matter their age, actually, we're giving people a chance to get to know the backstory of amazing professionals, amazing community leaders in the area, such as yourself, Kat. And hopefully that in itself can spark an interest of saying, oh, I'd like to know more about this area or that area, or I wonder if I could contact Kat through my local school to see if we could understand more about IT. So I think that's really, really awesome work that you're doing in the local community there. Now, Kat, I want to go back to that conversation around the Kingston Chamber of Commerce, because as I mentioned at the top of the show, of course, we both met about 3 years ago, I think it is now, as members of the chambers. But since then, you've gone to become now the president of the chambers. So many congratulations on that. But could you tell us a little bit more about why you joined the Kingston Chamber of Commerce and what do you feel your business gets out of it?
Thank you. So, as I said earlier, the reason why we sort of joined is to me being curious what this chamber is about, who was in the same building as us, and Jerry was very nice, and I felt comfortable joining the chamber and going to events. Obviously, being a technical person, I'm not the greatest at talking to strangers. Although I have managed to develop my skills and got a lot better over the years. We've been members of the chamber, and naturally I sort of started to be interested in how the chamber works. So I've been sort of nominated to become a director. So I thought, well, it would be great to get involved and try and shape the organisation as well. And what I've been seeing is it was more sort of male dominated and more sort of very formal at the beginning, but it has changed a lot throughout the years we've been members, and we have many female members as well as younger people like yourself being part of the chamber, which is very nice. And I think again the same as with the sort of females in tech is trying to equalize things between business owners, and I think a lot of companies are taking that on board and bringing more females onto their sort of board of directors as well. So I think it's all part of making the global change of things, and obviously starting in your sort of backyard with
Absolutely.
making the change, and then it sort of ripples through.
Kat, what are some of the key business lessons that you've learned throughout your life?
So I think obviously the biggest lesson was learning that people don't just come and knock on your door or ring your phone number or look at your website straight away after you start a business. And it sort of takes a bit of work and obviously a constant learning. So no matter if it's just within IT or within the business world or anything else, I think a long life learning is really something which everyone needs to embrace and continue, because a lot of the time you start in a career, but it takes you different paths, or you need to reschedule or restart your career in a different industry. And I think this is especially going to be what's going to be happening to many people nowadays during the pandemic. And it's one of the key things. I think it's super important is to just keep learning and keep looking at things, and don't only go by one source, but always look at multiple sources so you can form a sort of full opinion about certain matter or problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look back at your career journey to date, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm proud of when I decided that I wanted to apply to the computer specialist high school, that I've actually sort of went for it rather than being put off by my teacher saying that I'm not good enough for it. And it was sort of a drive for me to continue and get my bachelor's degree as well, and then following by my master's, because I just wanted to prove that teacher from my primary school so wrong.
Don't we all? Very cool. And what next for you in your business? Are there any projects in the pipeline that you can tell us about?
So we have been working hard at all sorts of different things on obviously security, and also sort of automations and how to help our clients. So we have come up with sort of packages for sort of micro businesses, because there's a lot of them starting up, just to help them up with the basic security and their IT and get them on the right path. But also helping out sort of bigger clients with how they operate, getting them more efficient, using more of the cloud services in a secure way. So that's one of the problems we come across sometimes, where people think just because it's in a cloud, it's secure. Just because it's in a cloud doesn't make it any different. It's still a computer. It's still servers which are running in a data center, and they still need to be secured and assure that the right people are accessing it.
So there's exciting times ahead for sure.
Yeah.
Very good. Kat, as we start to wrap up, I'd like to ask you a few quick fire questions that our listeners are always interested in. So I know you alluded to this a little bit beforehand, but what do you do to relax outside of the office?
So I like to go for walks with my dog, Dora. And I think if someone looks at our Twitter feed, they will see Dora in a backpack and Dora being outside. And it's great because not only I like going for walks, I also like riding a bike. And Dora loves it as well, but she gets tired. Therefore, I got her a backpack so I can put her in a backpack when she gets tired.
Very cool.
And also, apart from that, I do enjoy some strategy games and sort of playing games with my team. So I feel that it's really important to sort of engage with my team outside at work and sort of build up stronger relationships, because that then leads into delivering a better service to our clients. It's happy employees
are for sure
happy to provide better service.
Yeah, and that again, I know I'm biased, but that comes out loud and clear in your team. They're always nice to talk with, even when there's something that is sort of in our mind urgent and needs solving. They're good at just calming us down and remembering us that they're on it, and they're gonna help us sort it out. So that's awesome, the way you see that filter through as a managing director. Are there any books that you've recently read that you would recommend to our listeners?
Yeah. So I have actually just downloaded a couple of days ago the book from Bill Gates,
Mm-hmm.
How to Avoid Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. I've only sort of started listening to this book in the last couple of days, but it's I think it's really important for especially influential people to stand up and say what they do about their carbon footprint and what they're doing to sort of help the environment. And I think it's down to every single one of us. And he's putting in some good examples how we can sort of do that as individuals and as companies. And one of the things you, I'm sure, understand is we can vote with our wallets. So if we choose to buy something which is greener or has sort of zero carbon footprint, there'll be more of a demand for those products to be on the market, and there'll be less demand for the ones which have high carbon footprint. So I think that's really important. And obviously, one of the other things Bill has done is move his investment away from fossil fuel. So I think that this will be a clear sort of sign to all those companies who are investing in it that the time's over and we need to start moving towards greener and more efficient ways of operating.
Yeah, absolutely. And are there any movies or TV shows that you've recently watched that you'd recommend to our listeners?
TV shows, I've actually been sort of watching something called Cloud. I think it's called Cloud 9, and it sort of shows you the inside of how corporations are working, and the sort of flaws within it, how the people on the top are controlling the individual workers and what they do to the point of they control when the lights turn off and on and locking off the doors, and it sort of shows what is wrong with corporations like that and how they operate. So although it's sort of a funny thing to watch, it's the what sparks my interest is to seeing how they putting it out. And I think this is what is in the background of it. Although they made it funny, it is showing the real world problems.
Yeah, very cool. And finally, where can people go to find out more about you and your business?
So people can find more on our website, which is iqnit.uk, or our Twitter, which is @iqnit, or on LinkedIn. So my full name is Katrina Damcova. So finding me on LinkedIn and seeing more there.
Absolutely. And for the benefit of our listeners, I'll make sure that I add those links to the show notes. Kat, thank you for joining us here on the Inside Kingston podcast. It's been a pleasure getting to know your story.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. It was very enjoyable having a chat with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Inside Kingston podcast. Make sure to check out our guests' website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they're doing. If you have any questions or know someone who should be a guest on the show, please feel free to get in touch. I would also love it if you could go to iTunes and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on some great guests, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rate well on iTunes so that others can find and enjoy the show too. Thanks for listening.